Hello, welcome to UFDC's Adventure in Dolls. Today, the program is being presented by Joyce Stamps. She's a UFDC member, and leave your comments in the comment section below. You know how much we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to like, hit the thumbs up button, and subscribe. Remember, there's no fees involved. It just boosts our rating with YouTube. So be sure to tune in, like, and subscribe that you don't miss your next adventure in dolls. And now, let's join the program.
According to Webster, a doll is a children's toy made to resemble a baby, child, or grown person. Dolls were used by primitive people as religious or magical objects before dolls were toys. Dolls, thousands of years old, have been found in Egyptian tombs. Dolls are fun to collect, to play with, and make. I will try to connect dolls with African Americans who have made a difference in our history. First, as you say, hidden history, topsy-turvy cloth dolls. These dolls were made for children, both black and white, to play with. The original topsy-turvy dolls were created before the Civil War in the southern United States on plantations where slavery was prominent. Arguments arise as to whether the dolls were made for the slave children to play with or whether they were made for the white children who lived in the plantation house. With one identity on one side and an opposite identity when flipped, slave children could have played with their prohibited black doll and then flipped it to the white doll when the master was around. Others believe that the double-ended dolls were made for white children, with the black doll used as a maid for their other dolls. And this is one example of a topsy-turvy. White on one side and black on the other. Isaiah Walker doll. Isaiah Walker was a doll maker from Rhode Island. Her black dolls differed from her Caucasian dolls in that the hair was not painted, but was applied wool to the top of the head. The doll that you see is a reproduction of what the dolls look like. That was a doll that I received at one of my conventions that I went to. Phyllis Wheatley was an African American poet. She was born in Senegambia, Africa, either 1753 or 54, and that's because they really didn't have birth certificates, and died in Boston, Massachusetts, December 5th, 1784. Phyllis lived in my hometown of Medford, Mass, at the Royal House as a slave and then moved back to Boston. She was treated well by her new owners and educated so that she could read English, Latin, and Greek. She was the first African American woman poet to publish a book on poetry and wrote of love, salvation, and patriotism. And one of her poems is, a part of it is, "The world is a severe schoolmaster for its smiles and flatteries, and it is difficult to keep in the path of wisdom." Harriet Tubman, born in 1822 and died in 1913. She couldn't read or write, but she outwitted bounty hunters and sheriffs and led her family and other people to their freedom by guiding them and inspiring others. They called Harriet Ross Green Tubman, the Moses of her people. Harriet was a slave until she would take no more. Harriet was hired out to toil in the fields of her owner's neighboring farmers' plantations in Maryland in 1849. When most slaves were being sold to the South, Harriet decided to run away to the North. At that time, slaves were considered the property of their owners. She knew people, both white and black, who offered a night stay or food or shoes to the runaways. This network of safe havens were called the Underground Railroad because this help had to be kept secret. Otherwise, these people would be arrested. I was told that safe havens had a statue on their lawn. The statue, black lawn jockeys. Escaping slaves understood when the jockey's statue would guide them to the Underground Railroad, safe houses, and to freedom. I have been tempted because I have seen a few of those statues on lawns in this area, and I've been tempted to go up and knock on the door and say, "Is this a safe house?" and see what their response would be. Bessie Coleman was born in 1892 and died in 1926. She was born in Atlanta, Texas, and was the first black woman to earn a pilot's license. Because flying schools in the United States denied her entry, she taught herself French and moved to France, earning her license from France's well-known Caldron Brothers School of Aviation in just 7 months. Coleman specialized in stunt flying and parachuting, earning a living, barnstorming, and performing aerial tricks. She remains a pioneer of women in the field of aviation. Tragically, on April 30th, 1926, Coleman was killed in an accident during a rehearsal for an aerial show, and she was only 33 years old. First to sue for their freedom in court and won, Elizabeth Mumbet Freeman. Elizabeth Freeman, in her early life known as Bet and later Mumbet, was among the first black slaves in Massachusetts to file a freedom suit and win in court under the 1780 Constitution, with a ruling that slavery was illegal. The ruling was considered to have informally ended slavery in the state. After winning her freedom, she worked for her attorney, Theodore Sedgwick, whose daughter Catherine wrote an account of her life. Catherine's great-granddaughter is the actress Kira Sedgwick. Mumbet was born in the slave circuit of 1742, spending her young adult years in the household of John Ashley in Massachusetts. When Ashley's wife attacked her, Betts appealed to a local abolitionist who brought her case to the courts. Betts was granted her freedom and 30 shillings in damages in 1781, with the case Braun and Betts versus Ashley. Betts became a paid servant and raised her family on her wages. I have visited her home and visited where she is buried, and she is buried in with her slave masters, which is unusual for a black person to be buried in the same place. The Turner sisters. They ended up on Martha's Vineyard. The Turner sisters were from Brighton, Massachusetts. Marie Celeste, the oldest, was the first African American to attend MIT. The sisters moved to Martha's Vineyard in the 60s. They were teachers and doll collectors. They had the largest doll collection in this part of the country. The dolls they were famous for were the peddler dolls. Marie and Grace wrote 4 books about the dolls they created, along with patterns for the dolls. They were members of the Doll Study Club of Boston and Martha's Vineyard Doll Club. And these are the 4 books that they wrote. and they wrote those were when they were living on Martha's Vineyard. Josephine Baker, I'm sure everybody's familiar with her. Frida Josephine McDonald was born in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where we're going to be next year for our convention, or this year I should say, on June 3rd, 1906, and she became Josephine Baker. She was a high school dropout. She went on to achieve many great things. She performed on both stage and screen and also recorded her own songs. She adopted 12 children from around the world. She spent the greater part of her life in Paris due to discrimination in America and became a civil rights activist. In 1975, she died several days after a party was thrown in her honor. Daisy Turner is a storyteller and a poet. She lived to be 104. This doll holds a special place in my heart as I was raised in West Medford where Daisy's relatives were, people that I know. I discovered this after 2 years after I had purchased the doll and the book. And Daisy Turner also is part of the Vermont People's Authority. Rosa Parks. This is a picture of her and the doll that I have. It is actually one of the Barbie's most inspiring women. Rosa Parks was a civil rights activist. She was born Rosa Louise McCauley on February 4th, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama. Her refusal to surrender her seat to a white passenger on a Montgomery, Alabama bus spurred a citywide boycott and helped launch nationwide efforts to end segregation in public facilities. The city of Montgomery had no choice but to lift the law requiring segregation on public buses. Rosa Parks received many accolades during her lifetime, including the NAACP's highest award. Matthew Henson said, "I think I'm the first man to sit on top of the world." He was a famed African-American explorer. Matthew Henson was born in Charles County, Maryland on August 8, 1866. Explorer Robert Edward Perry hired Henson as his valet for expeditions. For over 2 decades, they explored the Arctic, and on April 6, 1909, Perry, Henson, and the rest of their team made history, becoming the first people to reach the North Pole, or at least that's what they claimed to have. Henson died in New York City on March 9, 1955. Louis Satchmo Armstrong. Louis Armstrong, nicknamed Satchmo, Pops, and later Armstrong Satch, was born on August 4th, 1901 in New Orleans, Louisiana. An all-star virtuoso who came to prominence in the 1920s, influencing countless musicians with both his daring trumpet style and unique vocals. Armstrong's charismatic stage presence impressed not only the jazz world, but all of popular music. He recorded several songs throughout his career, including he is known for songs like Stardust, La Vie en Rose, and What a Wonderful World. Armstrong died at his home in Queens, New York on July 6, 1971. Muhammad Ali, a boxer, a philanthropist, and a social activist. Muhammad Ali was born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. on January 17, 1942, in Louisville, Kentucky. Ali became a Golden Gloves champion in 1959 and became an Olympic gold medalist the following year. Ali won all of his bouts in the 1960s. the majority of them by knockout. Since his retirement, Ali has devoted much of his time to philanthropy, but unfortunately he has passed away. And I didn't put the date in there. That was my mistake. Nelson Mandela. You see up the top, it says Madiba. In Africa, that word stands for dad. So whenever he was around, you would always hear those words from his supporters. He was born July 18, 1918 in Transkei, South Africa, becoming actively involved in the anti-apartheid movement in his 20s. Mandela joined the African National Congress in 1942. For 20 years, he directed a campaign of peaceful, nonviolent defiance against the South African government and its racist policies. In 1993, Mandela and South African President F.W. de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for their efforts to dismantle the country's apartheid system. In 1994, Mandela was inaugurated as South Africa's first black president. In 2009, Mandela's birthday, July 18th, was declared Mandela Day to promote global peace and celebrate the South African leader's legacy. Yes, we did. President Barack Obama. I have several dolls by him that are made by several different doll artists. And I can tell you who they are later if you're interested. Born on August 4th, 1961 in Honolulu, Hawaii, Barack Obama was the 44th and 45th President of the United States. He was a civil rights lawyer and teacher pursuing a political career. He was elected to the Illinois State Senate in 1996, serving from 1997 to 2004. He was elected to the U.S. presidency in 2008 and won re-election in 2012 against Republican challenger Mitt Romney. President Obama enacted policy changes in response to the issues of health care and economic crisis. He continues to fight for these issues after leaving office in 2017. Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama was born Michelle Lavon Robinson on January 17, 1964, in Chicago, Illinois. She attended Princeton University, graduating cum laude in 1985, and went to earn a law degree from Harvard Law School in 1988. Following law school, she worked at a Chicago law firm. She became Chicago City Administrator and community outreach worker, where she met her husband, President Barack Obama. The couple married on October 3rd, 1992, and as the First Lady, she focused her attention on current social issues.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed Black Dolls, a reflection of their time through history by Joyce Stamps. We sincerely appreciate her support of our channel. Now, if you are not a UFDC member, but you might like to become one, but you're not sure, I want you to know it only costs $43 a year. And if you're not sure you want to belong to a club, then maybe you'd like to belong to an online club that meets once a month, or maybe you'd like to be a member at large. And if you go to ufdc.org, and look up membership, You can read all about it. And when you sign up, be sure you tell them Karen sent you. Thanks so much for your support today. We do appreciate you so much. We'll see you next.